So I'm going to redirect the conversation just a little bit, and I'm going to talk about impact and what the impact looked like throughout my whole journey. So I think I'm right in saying most of us here today are either coaches, parents, or we work with kids in some sort of way. And in saying that, I hope I'm right in saying that we want them to get the most out of this life, and we want them to leave their own little mark on this world. Imagine that. Imagine getting to have an impact on an entire generation of kids. Well, that's what I get to do every single day. So my fitness journey began almost 10 years ago, and it was an entire family affair. My mum, my aunties, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, everyone was a part of the gym. So it only made sense for me to try out this one summer camp. And from that very first day, I was hooked. I excelled in my strength and I worked a lot harder on my fitness, but there was something more. I got this feeling, there was a feeling of satisfaction, and you could almost call it pride. I got to leave that summer camp every single day that week with such an overwhelming feeling of accomplishment. I ran home to tell my mum and dad about whatever it was I got to achieve that day. And so, of course, the summer camp came to an end, and my mum came to me and she asked did I want to try the mainstream class. And I jumped at the opportunity. And from there, I think that was the beginning of one of the most important journeys of my life. And I know a lot of people might think that's a very big claim for someone of my age, and for something that from the outside looks like just a fitness class. But looking back on it now, it was so much more. Still to this day, almost 10 years on, I'm taking little lessons I learned through my time in kids, and not only do I get to apply them to coaching, but I'm also applying them to my everyday life. And my favorite example of this by far is take the win. We were always taught no matter how big or small a PB was, you celebrated it. Whether that meant it was half a kilo on top of your bar or it was a second of your time in a workout, you celebrated it. So from there, in kids class, it wasn't just that though. We got such an enjoyment out of it. The variety of movements we were given. We went from having basic strength and conditioning to challenging conditioning pieces, or gymnastic skills, and workouts that were infused in fitness you wouldn't even notice. And that's why we enjoyed it so much. But it wasn't just that. The coaches within the program, they managed to create such an environment around us that it made you want to push yourself, but it wasn't just that you pushed each other. We thrived off each other's accomplishments. And so as much as it was a solo sport, you might say, we felt like we were on a team. And we never ever felt left that class with a smile on our faces. And of course, all good things must come to an end, and I had to grown out of the kids and I had to move to the dreaded teens. And I have never forgot my first day of that class. To say I was shocked was an underestimation. The program was now completely changed. Everything I'd known, everything I was used to, was turned on its tail. But I kind of felt like I was starting to get it. I felt like I was understanding it. I knew why consistency was so important in my training, and why it wasn't just training that was important, it was training towards something. It was training towards a goal. So I started off that summer, we went in and we set our goals for the summer. And every single day I was challenged and I was pushed with this new program towards those goals. Whether it meant I was challenged with a whole new array of skills, or much heavier weights, or workouts I've been used to for years have now doubled in time. But I never felt the need to quit. I never wanted to quit. That very first feeling I had in that summer camp never left me. And so from there, as I worked the program, I started to step further and further outside my comfort zone. And I started taking part in fitness challenges, competitions, CrossFit style competitions. And I got to do this because I got to see my coaches, and my coaches constantly pushing themselves and pushing boundaries of fitness. And that's what drove me to take on these challenges. And not only that, but pushed me through the challenges. So yes, inevitably, taking part in a fitness program, I learned the benefits of strength and why it was so important to keep your body moving and why it's so important to keep your body moving right. But they also built me mentally stronger. They made me more resilient. So, starting out as a coach, I began my internship with coaching at 14 years of age. And I started out by shadowing coaches that I grew up watching. I shadowed them in the junior kids program. And now our junior kids program was a program where we had 4-year-olds to 7-year-olds who were just bursting with energy. And we got to teach them how to enjoy fitness and what it was to feel how to move their bodies properly. And as I worked my way through the program and I spent more time watching these kids get coached, I started to notice these different methods and little tricks that all the coaches were using to get them to do it right. And from there, I learned how to take my comprehension and my capability within a movement and turn it into something that I could actually teach. And so I slowly started to develop my own coaching style, like we all have. And as that progressed, I progressed into the mainstream kids program. And this was completely different to what I was used to now. They had all the same energy, but they now had drive, they had a goal, they had skills, and they knew what they wanted from the class. But that wasn't my favorite thing about it. My favorite thing about it was I got to see a class that I participated in religiously for years on end through an entirely different perspective. I was the coach. I'd been given this position, this opportunity to impact these kids. And that's when I was hooked. And I knew if I could just change one of their opinion on fitness, just change one of their view on fitness, I'd be happy. And so from there, as most coaches do, I got quickly invested, and I was no longer really worried about what my scores were, but I wanted to see them succeed, and I wanted to see them crush the next goals. And so this is when I decided I wanted to know more. And I began my first ever qualification in youth coaching. I took part in the Brein method, professional youth coach certificate at 16 years of age. And this was a game changer for me. I learned the science and the reasoning why methods I learned from whilst I was in kids and methods that I was using in my coaching and why we use them. But it wasn't just that. I got to learn why so many different kids struggle throughout their years of going through the movement. They could have it perfect one day and they could come into me the next day and it was just like they're starting from scratch. It was like you just forgot how to squat. But I learned why that happened, and I got to learn why some kids need entirely different approaches to coaching and how they react to it. And getting to have this knowledge under my belt and getting to go back onto the floor with it, the nerves in my belly started to fade away when I stepped out onto that floor, and they kind of got replaced with a passion and a drive. Like I wanted to see them succeed. I wanted to see their goals be crushed. And that's when I knew this is something I really wanted to do. So as I continued to grow as a coach, I got to watch cycles of kids come through the program, and they'd start out shy and quiet and timid, and they'd grow into this loud, outgoing, confident person who wasn't afraid to take up their space. And that was something so special because I'd seen it, I'd experienced it, and now I get to be the person that was implying it. So I slowly started to take solo classes. I started to get to take the lead on the kids program. And from there, that's when my confidence boomed. And the confidence, becoming a coach so young, definitely has shaped my life into what it is. And the confidence I gained from getting to step out onto that floor, whether it was to a kids class, an adults class, taking point on programs inside and outside the gym, or coaching people that weren't just my age, but I knew outside of the gym. Like I went to school with these people and I was coaching them, and that was weird. But the confidence I gained from it was incredible. I went from being someone who dreaded class presentations, like most teenagers, I hated them. I didn't want to stand up in front of anyone, to now honestly looking forward to them. I craved the idea of standing up in front of the class. Or my first year of school, I refused to run for student council, and then this year, I'm on it for my 5th year in a row. I've got to speak in front of university students on so many different topics at such an age that just seems random, or even getting to be on this panel today. But my confidence on the floor was what was important. I felt like I could run the room. I felt like I was in control. So as much as the whole talk today is on impact, I think impact is definitely something that's passed down, and I truly do believe my success and my drive as a young coach has come from those who've impacted me from a past. And there's no doubt that my coaches are some of my biggest idols, and they have pushed me to where I am today. So I've got to see them time and time again set themselves goals and crush these goals. They've pushed boundaries in fitness, and I've got to watch it. And it wasn't long before they started setting me these goals, and goals that seemed so far out of my reach at the time. But they never let me fall short. They taught me that with dedication and consistency, you really could achieve whatever you put your mind to. They put me through 16 hours of fitness in a row and still had me smiling at the end of it, and had me agreeing to do it again the next year. But it wasn't just that. After hearing these lessons over and over again within the class, I kind of started to listen properly. I kind of started to understand what they were. They taught me how to take that pit feeling of a workout where you've got no energy left and you just want it to be done. But you don't give up because you know the clock's going to run out. And how to apply that and translate it into your everyday life. No matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, no matter the feeling, it's going to end. It will always just be a moment in time. So from that, I learned how to come back from it, And that's what built my resilience. They inevitably have built me into a stronger person I am today, both physically and mentally, by teaching me how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's something I will always instill in my children that I get to coach, because I think it's something that not only kids should learn, but I think it's important for everyone to know. It's a skill you can take through your entire life. So why do I coach with such a passion? Well, I think it's kind of obvious, but for me, I truly do believe I get to impact kids in one of the most incredible ways. And I know that because I was so lucky enough to experience it at such a young age. I grew up watching it, I grew up learning from it, and now I get to be it. I'm in that position to change their trajectory of life. I've got to see kids come into the program from every different background and all these different abilities, and they work their way through and they start to flourish. I've seen a young girl who came in, she didn't open her mouth for the first 8 months of our program. She just sat in the back and she was silent. She wouldn't say a word. She is now one of the most bubbliest, smiliest young girls you'll ever meet. She's currently our top performer in the whole program. And not only does she crush any challenge I could throw her way, she takes on any other boy in the program and crushes all those challenges. And she started to take on the younger kids and take them under her wing and teach them her ways. And that was incredible to see. And that's why I love coaching. Or a young boy, he came into us and he couldn't have been much more than a year ago. And he was very uncoordinated. He really struggled with those body weight movements, the basic movements, the fundamental movements. And today, not only is he crushing the body weight movements, but he's crushing every single goal that not only I've got to set for him, but all the other coaches that have got to work with him have set for him. And that's why I love coaching. So I've always said it and I've always thought it. Coaching is a privilege. It always has been and it always will be. And I truly do believe if in a few years' time comes and just one of these kids that I've coached looks back and thinks of me in any way or any regards that I've ever thought of my coaches, I will consider my time coaching a massive success. So I'm standing here today as an example. And if there's one thing you take away from everything I've said, let it be this. Kids need encouragement and they need to be pushed. And I know this because I was encouraged and I was pushed. Exercise, strength and conditioning, and obstacles can create a more resilient child if it's done right. And if you still don't believe me, I am proof. Thank you.